Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance units have detected and targeted a North Korean-made 170mm M1989 Koksan self-propelled artillery unit in Russia's Kursk region. The artillery unit, equipped with anti-drone devices, was destroyed by strikes from kamikaze drones. An Ural military truck in the area was also blown up and burned by a drone strike. It should be noted that, in addition to sending military personnel, North Korea is also supplying Russia with various weapons, including artillery units and shells.
NATO is seriously considering the possibility of Russian military aggression against one or more countries of the bloc and is preparing for such a scenario. As part of the Ramstein Flag 2025 exercises, which have been ongoing since the end of March and are taking place near the Leeuwarden Air Base in the Netherlands, about 100 F-35, F-18 aircraft, as well as UAVs and helicopters of the Allies have practiced repelling air attacks and destroying enemy air defense systems. Krizeitung reports. A new phase of maneuvers lies ahead. On April the 10th and 11th, the Allies will focus on supporting ground forces in an emergency during defense against invasion. The goal of the exercises is to confirm the ability of the air forces of the alliance countries to operate coherently and effectively, using forces deployed throughout Europe. According to the commander of NATO Air Forces, US General James Hecker, the maneuvers should also serve as a signal to Russia. The North Atlantic Alliance hopes that these exercises will serve as a deterrent for the enemy. Germany is represented by 8 Eurofighters, which operate from the Dutch base in Leeuwarden. For the first time, Danish F-35A Lightning II fighters are participating in the exercise. The Danish fighter squadron at Skridstrup uses the maneuvers to test interoperability with allies such as Italy and Hungary. In addition, Germany announced military exercises Red Storm Bravo, which will take place from September the 25th to the 27th. They are planned to involve up to 800,000 military personnel of the alliance states. As part of these exercises, a scenario of the Russian attack will also be worked out. Recently, the German SIS wrote that the Federal Intelligence Service of Germany and the Bundeswehr do not rule out the possibility of Russia starting a full-scale war with NATO before 2030. According to the German intelligence report, despite the concentration of forces in Ukraine, the Russian Air Force and Navy retain combat capability. After the end of the aggression against Ukraine, the Russian army can quickly redeploy its troops to the borders of the Baltic countries. Earlier, media reported that the Baltic countries are preparing to confront Russia, planning to build up to 1,000 bunkers. Of these bunkers, 600 will be located in Estonia. Former Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis stressed that Putin's army is now capable of capturing one of the Baltic states in a few days or even hours. The war in Ukraine has shown how important deep defense is so that the enemy fights for every meter of new land. Experts say that the defensive line in the Baltics is not the Maginot Line, and it is not some kind of wall or a continuous line of defense, but a flexible and mobile means of defense. Recently, footage from the front lines appeared on the internet showing Ukrainian drones striking a Gaz-69 truck. Along the entire front line, the loss of vehicles is spurring the rapid demechanization of the Russian army. Experts say that for the first time in 3 years of war, they saw the 1950 model of the Gaz-69 on the front lines. Forbes reports. The source writes that Putin's army attacked the Ukrainian armed forces positions in the Belgorovka area in a Gaz-69. The assault itself ended very badly for the Russian armed forces. The Gaz-69 model that came under attack was manufactured at the Molotov plant in Moscow between 1952 and 1972. The truck itself is not covered with metal sheets, and only an anti-drone net is welded on top. It is known that the truck was attacked by drone operators of the Abwehr group from the 81st Brigade. Other vehicles that were going into the attack were also attacked. Several more Gaz-69 models were spotted among them. Military experts emphasize that it is very difficult for the enemy to cross the front line in armored vehicles, not to mention light transport. However, more and more enemy units are switching to such trucks, as the Kremlin is unable to compensate for its losses in armored vehicles. Despite maintaining an advantage along most of the front line, Russia's winter campaign has produced limited results, indicating that the situation in Ukraine is not dire, concluded Ukrainian analyst Tatarigami. This does not mean that better equipped or more successful Russian assault forces will not advance a short distance here or there. However, it does not mean that overall the Russian army in Ukraine is increasingly unprepared for a major offensive and unprepared to exploit any local breakthrough resulting from a successful offensive. The heavy losses of armored vehicles are forcing Russian troops to look for alternative ways to transport personnel during assaults. One of these improvised solutions is the use of civilian vehicles, mostly still of Soviet make. It is modified in an artisanal way. The roof and doors are cut out, anti-drone grills are welded on, and electronic warfare equipment is installed. There is no pity for such equipment. In fact, it is disposable. Its main task is to deliver infantry to the landing point. After that, the vehicles are usually abandoned.